Welcome back to another episode, you guys, and what better way to start this fury of game smacking than to take on one of the most notoriously difficult games out there, Cuphead and Mugman. To change things up this time around, might as well choose Mugman. It reminds me of the first time I was introduced to this game as the second player. Everybody that's played or watched this game before knows that the first two things that really grab your attention are its unbelievable, eye-catching animation based on 1930s cartoons, accompanied by a loud and bold, jazzy ragtime musical score that they achieved with a team of over 20 musicians. The whole time you're playing, no matter the level, no matter the screen, the game just shines brilliantly with polish. With the audio and visual fronts completely knocked out of the park, it's a miracle that it happens to be paired with some of the most over-the-top, imaginative designs that have ever graced a console. An exceedingly simple and responsive control scheme ensures that just about any player would want to pick up the controller to give it a try. And who could blame them? Mixing a tried and true 2D run-and-gun boss-rushing platforming style with such a bold yet familiar presentation, it really does reach out of the TV to smack you across the face and demands your attention. With as much as the game does to please your eyes and ears with its captivating style, I'm sure that just the intro and opening world theme alone has prompted millions of smiles all over the world. But it doesn't take long for the gamer to realize that this kitten has got an extremely sharp set of claws. The challenge in Cuphead comes from what you've seen so far. Ever-changing attacks that keep your eyes, ears, and thumbs 110% engaged for your entire adventure, which we haven't even discussed yet. The plot and storytelling of this game is pretty simple, but profoundly executed. It opens up a book for us to page through with lively illustrations and reads as if it's an old tale of two established friends routinely getting themselves in and out of trouble. Cuphead succumbs to overwhelming greed at the casino and agrees to a deal with the devil, a literal interpretation of the old expression. When they lose the bet, the two beg for their forgiveness, and the only way they are spared their souls is because they agreed to retrieve the souls of those who are already in debt. This is a perfect concept to explain why 19 of the 25 levels are immediate standoffs with the person or thing that you're looking for. 5 of which are in an airplane mode, which also does the furthest thing from pulling any punches. There's normally a lot going on in this game anyway, but the airplane stages do not hesitate to throw bullet and projectile hell your way, and in some fights, it's a constant occurrence. While hopping level to level and playing through the game, it's easy to forget that this isn't some slew of bad guys working together with an overarching evil mission. No, you're actually the crazy son of a bitch that stepped up to them to take their soul by force. And these guys definitely throw everything they have at you to protect their souls, with normally 3 to 4 different transformations during every fight that completely change the dynamic of it, making these 19 boss fights play out more like 60 to 70 unique sequences that you need to learn and adapt to, another reason why Cuphead stays incredibly entertaining and engaging. After a swift boot from the casino, you're introduced to the game's little charming overworld, which is a vibrant and cute little hub that has the sections level slightly spread out, all just a short happy stroll apart from each other. There's a shop where you can buy different weapons and little abilities to equip 1 or 2 at a time, and although there are some interesting and sophisticated combinations out there, this is what it looks like when I play. Goodbye. And that's it. You have your standard straight line shot, and I buy the short range multi-shot in order to put on heavier damage when I can get close. Combine that with an attitude that's unwilling to quit, and that's all you need. You can also perform some power shots as your meter slowly fills from landing hits. These are helpful, but definitely not overpowered. When your meter is completely full, you can do a more powerful attack, and these do pack a decent punch. Your full meter ability depends on what you have equipped, but you can unlock these by practicing your parry ability, and these work with a well-timed button press to bounce on a pink object. With how hard it can be to always stay in a safe position, I actually like using the invincibility power since I can activate it just before I would otherwise take damage, and that's crucial with only 3 HP. Plus it allows you to get close and unload your spread shot right in their face. Even from the first world of bosses, you are tackling fights and levels that are challenging enough to be in the final stages of basically any other game out there. While many games out there start things out pretty slow and easy, maybe around a 2 to 4 out of 10 in difficulty, Cuphead starts you out against deceptively simple-looking and cutesy fights, but they're all already between a 7 and 8. While some gamers hate this, to the developer's defense, they always have the easy or simple setting, which slows things down quite a bit, so it's not like they're trying to make the game completely inaccessible. Plus, these challenges, although intense, aren't long at all. Some people can just not handle the overwhelming feeling you get and the pace of these fights, which is understandable. But something to keep in mind is the number that I stated earlier. There are 25 levels and they're all only about 1 to 2 minutes long. Seriously, so you could literally and realistically try a level 10 to 15 times in a row while only spending 10 minutes of your time, which is nothing compared to how much time some of these games ask from you. While the fights in few levels are hard, it's the perfect type of challenge to chip away at over weeks, months, or for some even years, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it's the perfect pick up and play game in that way, kind of like having one of those little challenging puzzles always sitting around, waiting for you to finally solve them. On the other end of the spectrum, after enough practice, Cuphead can actually turn into a super intense but rewarding and fun game to plow through in one sitting, as I did for this footage actually. It was only my second save file since I played all the way through it a couple years prior, and while it was a long time ago, the lessons learned way back then saved me around 15 to 20 hours this time at least. Speaking of lessons learned, it's extremely important to address the fact that Cuphead is not some trial and error bullshit that only some masochist can tolerate. No, you never know exactly what a boss is going to do or exactly when they're going to do it. Sure, you get to have a feel for what they can do, but the question of when is a different story. So it requires top-notch anticipation and reaction speed in order to progress in this game. Speaking of progress, another great thing Cuphead does is it shows you at the end of every death just how far or painfully close you were to victory. Seeing things like this might seem like it would be uncommon, but believe me, if you play enough to improve and keep pushing yourself to go the distance, you're bound to have these moments happen a whole lot. Just because you're getting better doesn't mean that there still isn't a shit ton of stuff going on that could take you out at the very last second. But hey, as I said, this is a result of a solid 1 to 2 minute run, so as emotionally ravaging as this can be, just take a breath, sack up, and keep digging. Although you can't see the boss health, I actually really enjoy this because it adds more tension to the fights, but still answers the begging question, how close did I get? It even shows you different marks for when the bosses transform into their next form, helping you learn more about the fight. The victories are super rewarding, and seeing your victory flag go up with the loud horn is just awesome. When I went to get footage for this review, I sincerely didn't plan on beating all the bosses again, since mentally I had already hung my hat on the feeling of, I've done this before. But just as the game did to me previously, I was hooked, and I couldn't let myself walk away without the last laugh. Speaking of laughs, I am simply blown away by the extra effort they went through to give every single form its own lines and zingers for when you go down. They're not only great puns and references, but they pack a serious shit-talking punch that can actually get underneath your skin. At the same time, it's so interesting to read and see all of them. Whenever I would get through a form without seeing the death screen, I found myself tempted and often playing it again just to die to see what they would say. They really are that clever and interesting. As you finally make it to the final section of the game to turn the table on King Dice and the devil himself, things aren't handed over to you easily at all, and the game finishes strong with more unique style. You have to roll the die in order to play through some of King Dice's casino-themed fights, and every space holds a different fight. Just like the rest of the game before it, the variety and presentation are superb. Since you have the same life bar throughout this entire process, these fights aren't nearly as complex as the full-fledged wars you just went through, but the amount of fights and the length of this whole process can definitely wear you down. Your roll can be timed somewhat easily, so you do have control of where you're going next, but nervously timed rolls could cost you with an extra fight, missing a heart piece, or the seemingly colossal task of starting it all over. Once you get through the board, King Dice starts up without any warning, and you don't have much time to figure out exactly what to do. After a quick death like that, you would hope that you've reached a checkpoint, but nope, back to the beginning for you, which I'm sure resulted in even more controllers getting spiked across the world at this point. You'll notice that some of the cards happen to be pink, so you can safely parry on them, bouncing over the ones that cause damage. All this while shooting upward, but there isn't anything else to it, and overall, it's the only level in the game that routinely takes about 3 to 5 minutes. And after this, you've got one last battle on your hands, against the devil. Just like the rest of the game, it's hard. Phase 1 has you against him in his chair while he sends minions out left or right. While he could do a few different things, his head could turn into a spider and pounce a few times from the top of the screen, he could turn into a dragon that takes up about 95% of the screen, or extends goat hooves to smash you, and also has some projectile-oriented moves as well. As you can see, there's a lot to keep your eyes on, and you have to put in some serious work to reach the next phase of the fight. Here you can see we literally come face to face with the devil in his own environment, hell, and you've got to pump a shit ton of shots into his eyes while looking out for the floating axe, flaming poker chips, an ear bomb, and eventually you can see his smile is wiped clean from his face for a much more dire look, letting you know that all things are serious, all bets are off. Toward the end, you have another screen full of projectiles and minions, until it's just you with one platform, a falling poker chip, and his tears that also pack a punch. Overall, it's safe to say that Cuphead is a jaw-dropping experience. Really, it's extremely memorable. It's one of my favorite games, and it'd be one thing to have a game that just crushes presentation and sound, but to have these things going for it and just be such a memorable experience and extremely unique, something that keeps you thinking long after you put down your controller, it's really a must-play if you have the temper for it. aside from that, I can't wait to crush day 2, day 3, day 4. Basically, the plan is to put out videos Monday through Friday until it's time to go back to work. So love having the free time despite all that's going on. Can't wait to see you guys again very, very soon. Have a great rest of your day.